Welcome to another exciting episode of the Entreprenudist Podcast, the place to hear real entrepreneurs and business owners bear it all. And this episode is no different. We have the entrepreneur of entrepreneurs, some people might say, the one that makes sure that you entrepreneurs and business owners stay out of trouble. At least they try to help you stay out of trouble because, like we said before we started this call, it depends. Before we get started, I want to let you know that this episode is brought to you by Shield Wolf Strongholds, a wealth growth and protection company when it comes to estate plans, when it comes to retirement plans, when it comes to employee benefits. If your plan ain't Shield Wolf, your plan ain't strong. Now our guest, Matthew Fornaro, has been a business law attorney serving South Florida since 2003. Before starting his law firm, he was an attorney at two prestigious AmLaw 200 law firms focusing on civil litigation. Matthew practices complex commercial litigation, including contract disputes. Matthew, a member of the Florida Bar and District of Columbia Bar, also practices construction law, intellectual property law, homeowner and condominium association representation, and drafts and revises of business documents, including the formation of business organizations. Matthew assists new business owners in choosing and drafting all legally required documents. Matthew is involved in mentoring new attorneys as both a graduate and instructor of the Kauffman Foundation's Fast Track New Venture program, presented by Broward County Office of Economic and Small Business Development in the city of Hollywood. I'm assuming that's Hollywood, Florida, as well as a graduate and instructor for the Florida State University College of Business, Jim Moran Institute for Global Entrepreneurship Small Business Executive Program. As a small business owner himself, Matthew is proud of his representation of businesses in our community and is also available to assist in all transactional and litigation needs. Matthew Fornaro, welcome to the Entreprenudist Podcast.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Thank you for that welcome. I wish it was Hollywood, California.
I think I heard some hearsay that it was supposed to be the Hollywood that we know of it, but I think some churches or religious sects kept it out of here. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I heard.
Yeah, you may have heard right.
Is there nothing that you know now that you wish you knew when you first started?
Well, obviously, looking back, I wish I knew a lot more about business when I first started my own business that I know now than I did then, because I didn't know anything about business. I knew about law, but I didn't know about starting and running my own business. So that would probably be the main thing I wish I knew then, and that would be 10 years ago. Regarding other stuff, the law stuff, it's just stuff you learn along the way. But the business stuff is the most important things that I wish I knew when I started my own business.
What would you say was that one business part? Because, I've heard that before. Law school teaches you how to think, but it doesn't necessarily teach you. I've heard people say it teaches you how to think, but it doesn't necessarily teach you about the law. I don't know if that's true or not, but it sounds like what you're saying is law school. It taught you how to think, and it maybe taught you about the law, but it didn't necessarily teach you how to structure a business correctly.
Correct. It didn't teach you anything about business. It teaches you about theory and how to think, Socratic method, but it doesn't really teach you how to go be a business person or go run your own business or help other people run their business. That's stuff you gotta learn along the way or go to school specifically for business. There's a great scene in My Cousin Vinny, which is a great movie, especially if you're an attorney, because there's a lot of funny parts in there, where Ralph Macchio asks Joe Pesci, he's like, well, Vinny, what did you learn in law school? And then Vinny starts talking about, they teach you about contracts and interpretation. Then you work somewhere and they teach you how to be an attorney. So that's it's true.
That was actually a very great movie. It's one of those movies where it's so old it's new to me, so I gotta go watch it again because it's gonna, even though I've already seen it multiple times, because it's been so long since I've seen it, it's probably gonna seem brand new to me. But that's one of the first movies where what do they call it? The when they're trying to affirm that this expert is it Gilbert? They're trying to confirm, hey, this expert is an expert that's worthy of giving their opinions on a particular subject. And I believe it was Vinny's girlfriend that had that expertise in the old cars.
Yeah, Mona Lisa Vito.
Ah, man. Man, you like that movie. And I think was it Dalbert you said?
Yeah, it's Dalbert.
Okay, and that's something that's very important. While you were coming up, did you utilize any experts? Do you utilize experts when it comes to putting these contracts together or at any point in your business, or based off of what you learned, that's what you and your paralegals and your staff apply?
Sure. So most of the time when I have experts, it's for litigation, not for drafting things. I bring in experts when I need to consult an accountant or a business valuation person or something like that when it comes to certain transactional things. So most of the time when I use experts, it's in a litigation setting for, to prove various things or disprove various things.
Okay. And do you only experience litigation settings when it comes to your construction defect and all of that stuff? Or do you also experience litigation when it comes to business structure and partners?
All of it. I do, most of what I do is commercial litigation. So it involves, civil litigation that doesn't involve personal injury or will contest or anything like that. Essentially anything that involves owing money or breaching contracts or anything like that, or not performing under contracts, falls under commercial litigation. And that's what I do. So that's businesses fight over money, partners fight over businesses, construction defects, you didn't pay me, I paid you too much. That kind of stuff is the litigation that I deal with mostly.
And is there nothing that you have discovered that's very common that's left out of these partnership agreements, or just partnership agreements are just typically non-existent? Have you discovered that there's something crucial that's left out of partnership agreements that should be included, or have you discovered that most partners don't even have partnership agreements in place?
Both. First, it's amazing how many people have business organizations, not just partnerships, but LLCs and corporations who don't have governing documents and who don't have written business plans. They just kind of go on the internet, start a business, and there they go. So, yes, one of the main things is that the documents are entirely missing. The other is that they're terrible because people, when they go into business, they have, you have to plan accordingly. You have to plan on having, professionals who help you, who shoulder the burden and do what they're supposed to do. So you should always have an attorney or an accountant or a banker help you with your business in that aspect, doing, attorney stuff for your business, accountant stuff for your business, banker stuff for your business. And what happens is people will just, go on the internet and look for a form to save money, or, go on ChatGPT now and have them draft something and it's totally wrong. And then later on down the road, when something happens, or even if something doesn't happen, the documents are totally wrong and you have to either amend them, or if you're involved in a lawsuit or whatever, you're stuck and you got to fix them.
Oh, yeah. Attorney, accountant, and banker, right? Definitely somebody should have that team. I do a lot of events where I talk to people that are 60 plus years old, and a lot of the information that I share with them, they usually are hearing it for the first time. I'm in my 30s, right? And I heard this, a long time ago, but they're just now hearing it now, decades later. And what I usually say is there's only two reasons that your attorney, your accountant, or your banker didn't tell you this. Either they didn't know or they didn't care to tell you. Now, assuming that that attorney, that a banker, that accountant falls in the they didn't know category, is there no telltale signs that somebody should look for to know that they're dealing with the right attorney?
Sure. So, when you're a business looking for a business attorney, I mean, you want an attorney who focuses on helping, small businesses, medium businesses, large business, whatever it is, startups, entrepreneurs. You don't want someone who is like a generalist who just does whatever walks through the door. Or you don't want someone, your uncle's friend who's a personal injury attorney. Maybe he can help you out. Or, your cousin's niece's daughter is a family law attorney. Maybe she can help you out. No, you want someone who focuses on that, and that's like what their only focus is as an attorney, is making sure that they deal with businesses and help businesses. You don't want someone who just dabbles in business law or just does whatever comes through the door, because you want to stay in your lane, and there's nuances in every area of the law. There's nuances in business law, no matter where you are. And you want someone who knows those nuances to help you. You don't want someone who's just dabbling over from a different discipline to get involved, because their advice could actually be worse than if you had no advice.
Oh yeah, I tell people this: attorneys are like other specialists. Attorneys are smart, but they're smart in spots. Just like any profession, you're smart and you're smart in spots. And it seems like what you're saying is what I've also experienced. Some people take an attorney's word, regardless of what they specialize in, as the gospel truth. They don't even look it up. They don't even ask for supporting documentation. They just go with it. What made you decide to specialize in working with businesses when it comes to structuring these documents and redoing these documents?
Sure. So, like I said, I had no business training coming out of college or law school. So I kind of got into business law when I went out on my own and started my own law firm 10 years ago. What I primarily did when I worked at big law firms was just like big litigation involving like banks and insurance companies and things like that. But when I went out on my own, I wanted to bring my level of practice and my level of knowledge regarding the law and how to help people to small and medium-sized businesses that were underserved regarding like litigation needs and stuff like that. And then during the course of building my own practice over the last 10 years, I focused on helping small and medium-sized businesses, with their litigation needs and also with their government, with their transactional needs, like their documents and stuff. And the reason why I got into that is because, I guess growing up, my dad had a small business, and I saw him, run a small business and dealt with it and doing stuff, and I would help him out and stuff. And I would see like, not the adversity that he dealt with, but just like how his, he had a pretty successful small business, a medical equipment company and medical supply company, but it was like underserved by attorneys and accountants, and they weren't really like focused on helping businesses like my dad's business or whatever. So I wanted to be able to kind of fill in that gap and help that niche when I had the opportunity to do my own thing. So that's kind of how I got into the space, and that's how I've developed my practice in that space for the last 10 years.
Yeah, and so it sounds like it was a part of your development as a kid, and then it became a necessity once you became an attorney running your own business. What exactly, because I know homeowners associations and condominium associations are essentially quasi-governments, small businesses themselves. What exactly do you do for them?
I represent them in their, and they deal with their residents and their various issues. I mean, they are nonprofit corporations, so it's just like representing another corporation. And it's just making sure that they comply with their documents and they comply with the law and make sure that all the people who are members of the association comply with their documents and the law. And if not, then we take enforcement actions. We, send out letters and fine people and go to court if necessary.
Okay. And I actually, I used to be CAM, Community Association Managers, continuing education provider, right? Mm-hmm. And I know that one of the main things when I sat through this class, it seemed like everything involved, call your attorney. All right, this happens. First, call the attorney, then do this. So do the associations you represent, do they essentially call you all the time or email you all the time? How does that work?
Not necessarily, because the associations I represent all have management companies. So the management company is like the day-to-day operator of doing things for the association. And they handle and field most of the common questions and issues. And that's how most management companies are in associations that have management companies. When something is extraordinary or very, I don't want to say very rare, but gets out of hand or whatever, that's when I come in and do stuff. But for the most part, I only do stuff when it goes beyond the, the management company being able to deal with it regarding violations and issues like that. So I'm not really, they call the management company every day, they email the management company every day, and then the management company or the association contacts me when something's big or out of control or is not the norm.
Mm-hmm. And I think one of those things that are not the norm, or I don't know, man, being in Florida, it's probably becoming more and more normal. But I guess hurricane damage to the properties or extreme water damage to the properties. In those scenarios, just like we just mentioned, you are an attorney, so I'm assuming that they call you. But is that something that you or your office would work as well, or do you typically outsource that to a partner firm?
Well, we'll initially work on it, but for an association, for the common areas, which is what the association is concerned with, not the individual areas, it's all insured. So you would initially address the issue, but then hand it off to insurance coverage counsel or insurance defense counsel to deal with the insurance issues.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How big is your firm?
Oh, it's just, you're looking at it, it's just me.
Okay. And is it kind of like the doctors? Do you rely a lot on your paralegals, just like doctors rely on their physician's assistants and nurses?
Yes, but also I have, over the course of the last few years, I wouldn't say I'm at the cutting edge of technology, but I'm pretty close to it. I know some of my friends are way out there. I've introduced a lot of technology into my practice, including a lot of AI, but I take responsibility over it and I make sure I'm in charge of it. And I just don't take what it says for granted. So I've been able to, I don't want to say trim the fat, but I've been able to lean myself out to the point where the technology is a pretty good force multiplier, and I can do much more work than I used to do with multiple people with just me and the technology right now.
Man, that's perfect. Because you actually took it a step further than I've done so far. Because what I've told people is me utilizing AI hasn't made me fire anybody, but it's definitely stopped me from hiring people. Yeah. Where I usually would have been considering hiring an extra person. No, it's how do we get the best prompts? How do we set up the right things with these large language models? How do we make sure to have the SOPs in place to catch the hallucinations, which is the fancy word that AI lies. It's right. It's so. How do we put these things in place? What conditions have you put in place to make sure that you're able to catch these hallucinations and make sure that it doesn't adversely affect the people that you work with?
Sure. I make sure that I review everything that I give to anyone else or use for anything else after AI helps me draft it or I use AI on it. So I just don't take AI's word for it. I actually proof it and check it. So that way I'm not just, taking its word for it and it hallucinates something or it hallucinates a court case or whatever. I check all the citations, I check all the facts, I check all the stuff. And, AI makes mistakes, and good thing I checked it, because then I fix it and then it's fine. But a lot of attorneys don't do that step, and they just kind of take what the AI gives them and turn it in or send it out, and that's why they get in a lot of trouble.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There are a lot of municipalities in different areas that have made it to where people have to sign and affirm that they didn't use AI. And the way that I explain it to people, because somebody might say, well, Randolph, Matthew, if y'all have to do all of that checking, what's the point of even using AI? And to me, I describe it like a sourdough starter. And I don't know if anybody is familiar with how sourdough bread is made, but first they have to get the yeast, and they have to do all of this whole process just to get the sourdough. And then once they have that sourdough, that's when they take that sourdough and put it in the oven. To me, AI is like the sourdough starter, and the responsible practitioner that's reviewing everything and making sure everything is correct and making adjustments. That's the equivalent of putting it in the oven.
That's a pretty good metaphor. I like sourdough bread, by the way.
Yeah.
It's good. I like it. I like the anytime a restaurant has like a sourdough bread bowl soup, I always get it. So the AI metaphor, it's the same thing. The AI is extremely useful, extremely time saving. Like I said, it replaces people, whether that's good or bad. But there always needs to be somebody to push the button, so that person's never going to lose their job. But, the AI can go crazy because the AI wants to give you the answer you're looking for, and it's biased no matter what AI you're using. So that's why you have to vet the AI, check the AI, and take ownership of the AI and the work product, because it could be wrong. And then, then you're going to be in trouble no matter what it is you're doing, no matter what industry it is.
Exactly. And I see that you're a member of not just one bar, but two bars. And some, I would say most attorneys might just stick with one bar throughout their entire career. What made you decide to not only be a member of the Florida bar, but also the District of Columbia?
Sure. I've been a member of the Florida bar since 2003. I've been a member of the District of Columbia bar since 2004. So the DC bar, I do some stuff in DC. Obviously, most of what I do is in Florida, but I do like court appearances and transactional stuff and a few other things in DC. The reason why I joined the DC bar is because of reciprocity with other jurisdictions. So the Florida bar is very insular, and they don't want outsiders. So states like Florida and California don't have reciprocity with other jurisdictions. If you want to be an attorney in Florida or California or a few other jurisdictions, you have to go and take the bar exam. You can't waive in and you can't reciprocate from another jurisdiction. So DC is the exact opposite. Any district that has reciprocity with DC. So wow. DC is like the building bridge to get into any other jurisdiction that has a waive-in option or a reciprocity option. So I did it just in case, for whatever reason, I don't know, who knows why, a meteor hits Florida or something, I don't know, and I ever had to leave Florida, I could waive into most jurisdictions wherever I would go in case I ever moved or, my wife transferred jobs or something, so I can just waive into most jurisdictions through DC. So that's why I did it. And then also because I can do work in DC too, and it adds to, more work for me to do, more money to make.
And it's something that's been. I mean, people been talking about it for a while, but it's been bubbling up on the internet. All of these different distinguishments between people and person and citizen, right? Was that a part of the DC bar stuff, or at that bar entry, you don't really get into all those distinguishments where people be essentially becoming sovereign citizens and all of those good stuff?
Yeah, I don't know. We don't really deal with sovereign. Sovereign citizens are mostly like a criminal thing or like a government regulatory thing. It's mostly people who are trying to avoid criminal charges and people who are trying to avoid like government regulations and things like that. It doesn't really happen a lot, particularly in commercial litigation. I get it sometimes and it's entertaining and hilarious, but most of the time it's kind of just geared towards those areas because it's people, trying to come up with crazy ideas that don't really exist in the real world about why regulations or laws don't apply to them.
So it sounds like you're saying once you get to like where the rubber meets the road, that's my cousin Vinny reference, by the way.
Yeah.
Call back. Once you get into where the rubber meets the road, it sounds like what you're saying. Your experience is it doesn't hold up.
Yeah, that sovereign citizen stuff. Look, there's a bunch of people who are way into that, and if they want to believe that, that's great. But when push comes to shove, it doesn't exist, and it doesn't apply. So when you try to show up in court and say crazy things like, the United States doesn't exist, I'm a traveler, I am not involved in interstate commerce, all these touchstones of sovereign citizens, other than wasting everyone's time, they just don't care because they don't apply.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so the real law is going to come down on you for you being an idiot.
Hey man, it's one of those things where you just hope that it's true. I still just hope that it's true that people can decide to go somewhere else. Because the way I see it is I see it online. Of course, I see the YouTubes and I already beat the game of life. That's the way I see it. I like it was a lot of. It's a lot of BS, still a lot of BS, still a lot of stuff that I got to deal with. I bought a house, but I'll never own it, paying property taxes, a whole bunch of stuff. Got to pay all of these licenses just for the right to have conversations with people, all these renewals, all of this continuing education, all of that stuff, right? But it's one of those things to where you just hope that people who don't have the wherewithal or fortitude, that there is another path other than just living off in the woods somewhere. But not so much. What is something that you would say is the difference? Have you ever done any criminal stuff, or has it all been on the civil side and the intellectual property side?
It's all civil, never done any criminal work whatsoever. No desire to.
So because that's one of those things to where it's a lot on the line. Intellectual property. Go ahead.
No, criminal's another thing where you either do that and that's your job, or you don't do that. You don't dabble in criminal law because that's dealing with like people's freedoms and rights. It's not dealing with like just money or contract issues. So that's something where you want someone who focuses on criminal law. So.
How should a business owner protect their intellectual property?
Sure, you got to be serious about it to begin with, and you got to be very proactive and protective of your intellectual property. Just because it's non-tangible property doesn't mean it's not as valuable as your actual tangible property. So you want to make sure that as you develop things or make things, you protect them, so you get them copyrighted or trademarked, or if you have an invention or something, a process or something like that, you make sure you get it patented. You make sure when you deal with other third parties and you actually have real secrets and real information that you won't want disclosed, you have non-disclosure agreements. You can't just use a non-disclosure agreement for, nonsense. It has to be an actual, real proprietary information. And then you want to make sure that you, enforce your rights so people don't infringe on you. You want to make sure that you protect your intellectual property and don't leave it out for other people to take advantage of. And that's essentially how you protect your intellectual property.
Okay, so let's say you're a business owner. You started a concept. You might even created a word or created a process. Is very widely known. Everybody knows that it's yours. There's no nothing showing that somebody was using it before. It's just you didn't copyright it. But then somebody tries to copyright it later. Does that business owner have any recourse? Can they say, hey, yeah, I never copyrighted, but here's proof that I've been using it?
Well, as we said before we started recording, it depends. So you're going to say, if it's like a copyright or a trademark issue, you're going to say, I was using this before you. I invented this. I came up with this. And they're going to say either no, or they're going to say, well, you never protected it, so I'm using it. And I do it better than you. So why shouldn't I have it? And that's why the moral of the story is that if you have intellectual property, you need to register your copyrights and trademarks. If you have copyrights and trademarks to register, you can't just leave them out there, because there's some protection, but not as much protection if you actually register them.
Is the poor man's copyright a thing? And what I mean by that is I just put it in an envelope.
Nope,
I just mailed it to myself. I never opened it.
Doesn't exist. Fiction.
Why don't they tell us this? Why do they let the general public go on believing that these things are real?
No, there's no. See, with copyright law, all right, copyright law is a little bit different because everything is presumed to be copyrighted the moment it's created. Okay, but that doesn't mean that it's recognized. It just means that conceptually, yeah, it's copyrighted, but you need to register the copyright anyways, which if you don't do, you're going to have problems. So if you come up with something, whether it's a copyright or a trademark, and you send yourself a letter, it's meaningless because you haven't registered it. So just because you can go back and say, I came up with it first, doesn't necessarily mean that you have the rights to it, because someone else can come and register it, and then they'll show that they exercise dominion and control over it, and that they took due diligence steps and whatever, and that you sent yourself a letter. So, and it's funny because
hey man, it's the thought that counts, Matthew. It's the thought that counts. No,
it's funny because every time, like when I do my instruction for the Kauffman Foundation or my Jim Moran Institute stuff, someone always brings that up as an example when we talk about intellectual property stuff. They're always like, if I send myself an envelope and it's postmarked, does that mean I'm protected? No, it doesn't. Every time, I'm not even being facetious, every time someone asks me that question.
Oh yeah, I mean, I would say that was one of the first things as a teenager that I heard about copywriting. All right, yeah, just and they called it the poor man's copyright. Just like what's that seafood that they call the poor man's lobster? What is that?
Fish.
It's I forget the name of it. Dang, that was good. But those was one of the first things that I heard was something that somebody could do. And once again, I know as you get older, you learn that a lot of things that you think were true are actually counterintuitive when it comes to being successful and being and making money. For example, you just referred to a general practitioner, an attorney. That's the same as a primary care physician. And one might think because you have a specialist and you have a primary care physician. They went to the same medical school. They did the same residency, except after that, one doctor decided to focus on one thing, and the other doctor decided to focus on a lot of different things. But who makes the most money? That doctor that focused on that one thing. Is that specialized knowledge that sets them apart. I think one of my colleagues described it, TR, he described it as, instead of being a mile wide and an inch deep, it's better to be an inch wide and a mile deep. Does that, and it seems like you feel the same when it comes to what you do for business owners.
Yes, it's true. Although I would say probably the average general practitioner doctor is probably a better doctor at being a general practitioner than the average general practitioner attorney is at being an attorney in all fields. But yeah, I mean, you want to focus on an area and stay in your lane and become good in that area and become effective in that area and be able to help your clients in that area. You just don't want to, like I said, dabble in various things and, just kind of, I don't know what to do. I'll just take the guy's money and, look it up or whatever. No, that's not how it operates. And at the same time, too, you're doing your client a disservice because, you coming out of your lane and doing like business law stuff, or coming out of your lane doing criminal stuff, or coming out of your lane doing like estates and trust stuff or bankruptcy stuff or whatever, you're going to get crushed by any attorney, no matter how smart they are, no matter how sharp. If any attorney focuses on an area where you don't know what's going on, you're going to get crushed by that attorney. So, and your client's going to get crushed. So that's why, for my practice, when I run into issues that aren't in my practice area, I refer them out to a person who focuses on that practice area. I don't try to do it myself. I know my capabilities and I know my restrictions, and I, respect my clients too much to try to do something. I just refer them to a person who focuses on that area and they handle it and it's fun.
Absolutely. That sounds like the way to go, making sure that your network is adequate. Because I say sometimes people have the misconception of being a competent professional means that you know everything. Absolutely not. But what it does mean is that you know exactly where to find that information if you don't know it off the top of your head. Do you have a sweet spot of preferred type of business owner, like, 5 employees, 15 employees, 100 plus employees? Or what's your sweet spot as far as entrepreneurs or business owners that should come to Matthew Fornaro?
My sweet spot is all entrepreneurs and businesses. I don't discriminate. I don't really have like a sweet spot regarding like the size of the business or the age or state of the business. I represent small businesses. I represent large businesses. Most of the business I represent are small and medium. And then, I represent startups and entrepreneurs who are just starting out, and I represent businesses who've been around for decades. So I wouldn't say I have a sweet spot as far as size or time. It's, obviously the genre of business law, people involved in business, things like that is my sweet spot.
What do you do when you're not working?
When I'm not working, which is a lot of the time, by the way, I'm a big nerd and a family guy, and I hang out around my house, hang out with my kids. My son's 17, so he's a senior in high school. He's going to go to college next year, but he hasn't been around the last 2 years because he just drives his car and stays out and shows up here at night and sleeps and takes a shower. My daughter is 14. She's cool. We hang out and do stuff. I take her out all the time. My wife and I have been married for 20 years. We hang out and do stuff. My parents live nearby. My in-laws live nearby. I hang out with them. And, I just like sports, TV, the usual stuff. Nothing extraordinary. I just keep it very run-of-the-mill. I'm not, blasting off into space or climbing Mount Everest, but I'm not, crying in the bathroom thinking about what life could have been either. So,
are y'all of a vacation type of family?
We are. Periodically, we're actually going to go on a cruise in a few weeks, which is going to be interesting because it's going to be like our last big family thing before my son goes off to college. But we've done all kinds of crazy trips over the years, and it's been, for the most part, it's been fun. Been some very weird stuff has happened, but it's pretty good. I like going on trips and vacation. I like going with my family. They're fun.
Your favorite cruise line?
My favorite cruise line that I've been on so far is Celebrity, but this next one we're going on is Norwegian. So I haven't been on Norwegian before, but I think it's going to be Norwegian because it's a pretty cool looking cruise, but I'll let you know when I get back.
Got it. One last question. What's your definition of success?
Definition of success is being happy and content with your personal life and your business life together.
Matthew Fornaro, are you successful?
In my own mind, I am. I'm definitely where I want to be and going closer to where I want to be in the future. And I don't really have any regrets. I don't really have any look back in fear or anger kind of issues. I like where I am and I like what I'm doing.
And is there a question that I didn't ask that I should have asked you?
No, you asked all the right questions. You also told me about the poor man's copyright, which I love.
You knew it was coming though. Soon as you put that you focus on intellectual property, you knew that you probably know that nine out of 10 podcast hosts are going to ask you about the poor man's.
I'm surprised you didn't pull out the envelope itself.
Man, I wish I had a prop here.
Yeah, you should have a prop envelope for. I'm gonna actually bring a prop envelope when I do my two cohorts next semester. I'm gonna bring that prop envelope. Send myself.
That would be very clever because you, just like you said, it seems like you say they always ask. And as soon as they ask you, that's when you say, "What do you mean, this?"
Exactly. I'm gonna be like the old Johnny Carson, where he holds up the envelope to his head and then opens it up and says what was in there. So,
hey, that'll be real good, man. Definitely. One last time, please let everybody know exactly who you are and how they can get in touch.
Well, thank you for having me, Matthew Fornaro, business law attorney located in South Florida. If you want to get a hold of me, go to my website, which is fornarolegal.com. It's got all my contact information, all my social media, all my blogs, all my posts, all my videos. It answers most of your questions at this point in time because I've been doing it so long. And if not, just email me or call me and I'll answer your questions. I'll help you out.
That's FORNAROLEGAL.com. Matthew Fornaro, thank you so much for being a guest on the Entreprenudist Podcast. This has been another episode of the Entreprenudist Podcast, the place to hear real entrepreneurs and business owners bear it all. If you are listening to this on an audio platform, please don't forget to check the show notes. That's where you can see more information on how to get in touch with Matthew, as well as you can see the video of our beautiful ebony and ivory faces. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a great night. Appreciate you, Matthew.
Thank you for having me.